Cannonier takes on Gregory Rodrigues next weekend, man. And today I'm about to break down the card, give my early predictions, everything I'm feeling. My 312 predictions will be coming out tomorrow, so make sure you stay tuned for that. Make sure you subscribe if you're new, man. I'm trying to hit that 1,000 subscribers by the end of February. No, it's a little bit of a long shot, but anyways, let's get right into it. The first fight up, which I don't think will be the first fight. I think this is probably a featured fight of this card. You got Gabriel Bonfim taking on Khaos Williams. Now, Gabriel Bonfim was supposed to fight my least favorite fighter on the roster, which is Rinat Fakhretdinov, and steps in one of my favorite fighters, Khaos Williams. Now, both these guys are in my top 20 favorite fighters, so for Rinat Fakhretdinov to step out against one of my favorite fighters and steps in another one of my favorite fighters, it's very, very, man, I really, really am upset about it, and I have to break the fight down and give my unbiased opinion, so that's what I'm going to do. Now, Khaos Williams stepping in. He is short notice here. Khaos Williams has power, right? We already know that. The guy has big, big power, and his technique is getting better. He is getting better as a fighter in general, and he has that one-punch KO power versus anybody, man. Everybody knows that about Khaos, right? Look, man, his wins are suspicious, right? Because you'll see him go to a split decision with Rolando Bedoya, right? Bit of a weird one. And then he knocks out Carlston Harris fast as hell, right? He's actually pretty accurate with his shots. And the guy just has, insane power. Now, obviously, he's not a complete fighter, and he's not as complete as Gabriel Bonfim, but that power just changes everything, right? And, man, I really don't want to see this fight happen. But anyways, Gabriel Bonfim on the other end, like I said, another one of my favorite fighters. The guy's a beast. No other way to put it. He would have fucking killed Rinat Fakhretdinov, and I'm so upset that we didn't get to see it. I'm so upset. But when you look at Gabriel Bonfim, for the most part, the guy's a guy who wants to stand on the feet and strike. And I don't know how much I'm excited for that, because he is a guy who wants to be in that pocket. He's great in the clinch. He's great with knees in the clinch. He's good from range as well. He's very active. His volume's great. And his only loss coming to Nicholas Dalby, he gassed out. But the very next fight at Elevation against Ange Loosa, put it on Ange Loosa. Just put it on him. And there were some questions for me in that fight, because Ange Loosa, while I don't think he's anywhere near Gabriel Bonfim in terms of skill, he is a guy who can push pace and has really good cardio. But Bonfim took it to him. And cardio was no problem in that fight. He looked fantastic. Oh my gosh. Obviously, there's danger. There's danger with striking with Khaos Williams. There is. But Bonfim does have really, really good jiu-jitsu. He has good takedowns as well. He can take you down. And the guy's guillotine is nasty. It's nasty. If you shoot for 1 second, you're going to get wrapped up in it, right? And he's aggressive with it. You saw Trevin Giles do it. Immediately wrapped him up and choked him out. I'm going to go with Bonfim here. It sucks to go against my guy, Khaos. But the overall skill set, this is for my early pick, of course. Overall skill set of Bonfim, I do think that he'll get it done. I like that he's been on a full camp here. And I'm just going to go with him to get this one done via decision. Hopefully no damage happens. It's just Bonfim kind of just, laying on top the whole entire fight so my boy Khaos can come back quick. And so can Bonfim. But I am going to go with Bonfim to win this fight via decision. Next up, oh man, Angela Hill taking on Ketlen Souza. Ketlen Souza is a lady that ruined my perfect night on UFC 306 where I was about to go perfect, 10 for 10. She ended up beating Yasmin Jaraguay and looked good. She hurt her bad and then wrapped up the choke immediately like Charles Oliveira. She hopped right on it. It was crazy. It was a good performance. She has lost in the past. Karine Silva, not a bad loss. Karine Silva's, a beast. Marnik Man win doesn't do much for me. Angela Hill is 40 years old, I think. She's very old. But she's kind of had been on a streak. She's kind of getting that veteran little action going. I don't know much about these ladies. I'm not going to go out there and dissect this fight. I'm not doing that, okay? But I am going to go with Angela Hill because I think she's just going to grind it on the fence, just use that veteran grinding mentality to win this fight on the fence via decision, of course. I'm going to go a split decision. I think she's got a lot of those on her record. Maybe not, but I'm going with a split decision. I just want to make it better. So I'm going to go with Angela Hill via split decision. Next up, Jared Gordon, Caio Fernandes. Now, Jared Gordon's interesting, man. He's a guy who's a good veteran, gritty, knows how to win fights, and unfortunately he's been on the tail end of a couple of those. Now, Nazareth hack pressed, I was all over to beat Jared Gordon. I thought he was going to whoop Jared Gordon's ass, and that was a close fight. It was a close fight, and I bet big on Nazareth hack press to win. He was in a couple of my parlays. I really thought he was going to go out there and school Jared Gordon. It didn't happen. It was a close fight. I still think hack press won, but it was controversial. A lot of people thought that Jared Gordon ended up winning that fight, and he's a guy that can do that. Now, he's very small for the weight class or weight division. I feel like there's not a chance he's 5'9". No way. But anyways, he's a guy who wants to get on the clinch, wrestle you a little bit, use the boxing, the clinch work. He's a veteran, gritty veteran. Simple as that. He's not the most athletic. He's not the most talented. He's not the fastest. He's not the strongest. But he's a guy who knows how to win fights, and he's tough. He's durable. He can stay in fights. He's a gritty guy. Now, Fernandes is going to be the better athlete. He's going to be the faster guy. Now, I think Fernandes trains with Jose Aldo, if I'm not mistaken. And, he's coming off a win versus Muhammad Yahya. Doesn't really do much for me. Muhammad Yahya is a guy who's not UFC level by any means. So, Fernandes ended up getting the win. And Fernandes has very fast kicks. Very good from the outside. He's fast with good footwork. That's going to be neutralized by Jared Gordon. That's what I believe. I think that Jared Gordon's the perfect matchup to do that to Fernandes. He ended up getting a loss versus Mark Jacqueline, where I did think he lost that fight. I thought it was not a split decision. I thought he actually lost pretty clearly. But he got wrestled in that fight, and Jacqueline had his way with him on the mat. And I think that Gordon might be able to get to that position. Now, Fernandes does have submissions off his back, and I know that. But he does like to kick a lot. He likes the high kicks. They're fast. They're good. I just think that Gordon's a tough guy. He's going to be able to nullify that in the clinch with the takedowns, with the, clinch dirty boxing. That's what he does, and he's very good at it. Very good at it. Can win fights doing that. He's got good cardio. I think he wins this fight pretty easily via decision. 30-27, I'm going to go. Next up, Rafael Estevam taking on Jesus Aguilar. Estevam hasn't fought in a minute, as you can see. He beat Charles Johnson via decision. And what Estevam brings to the table is very good grappling. Beast jiu-jitsu, right? He's got some incredible jiu-jitsu. Very, very good. And he's going to try to get you to the mat. No matter who you are, he doesn't care. That's what he's going to do. And he's good at doing it, right? He's got good judo. He's got good ways to hop on your back. If you're in the clinch, he's going to hop on your back. He's going to take that risk. He believes in his jiu-jitsu, and it's very, very, very high level. He's taken on Jesus Aguilar, who is a bit of an interesting fighter. Jesus Aguilar, I bet to beat Stuart Nickel and via submission. He was a big underdog. He went out there and got the guillotine, nasty submission, and that's what he does. He is a very, very good guillotine. Very, very good. Now he's taking on a guy like Estevam, who, Estevam, he's probably going to be aware of the guillotine. He's probably been in that position so many times. And the narrative going into this fight versus Stuart Nickel for Jesus Aguilar was that Stuart Nickel was going to drown him with the wrestling, with the takedowns, and made a mistake, and Aguilar wrapped his neck up and choked him out. And Aguilar's good on the feet. He is going to be better on the feet. He's got a knockout win over Shannon Ross. And he is pretty good on the feet, solid calf kicks, pretty good boxing, good speed. But I just think that Estevam is going to be able to get him to the mat. And when he gets you to the mat, he's dangerous and he has good control there. And obviously the guillotine could be a problem, but the way that Estevam gets takedowns, he will do it a different way. He doesn't need to just shoot a double leg and do – no. He's going to go out there and he's going to, do judo. He's going to push you on the fence with trips. He's very good at doing that, and I do think that he's going to be able to control Jesus Aguilar, and I do think that he will get this win. I'm a little worried about the long layoff, but in his debut, he looked solid. He was controlling Charles Johnson for long periods of time with the chain wrestling, and I do expect Rafael Estevam to get this one done via, I'm going to say a decision. Next up, the newly cemented number 14th ranked heavyweight, Don'Tale Mayes. If you didn't know, Don'Tale Mayes is now ranked in the heavyweight division. There's other guys I would have put in front of him. Probably Kennedy and Jekwu. I probably would have put him there. Maybe you could have even put Martin Boudet there. Maybe, right? There's guys you could have put above him. Now, Don'Tale Mayes, not great. He's a big dude. He's a pretty good athlete for his size. He's decent at stuffing takedowns, but he can be taken down. And when he's taken down, he does not have urgency to get back up. He's an okay striker. He doesn't have that much power. He's just not great. He's not good. I don't think he should be ranked. And he's coming off a loss to Shamil Ghazi, where I didn't think he looked that bad, but his wins. Kyle Machado doesn't do anything for me, as well as Arlovsky does nothing for me. Rodrigo Nascimento dominated him on the mat, and other people have dominated him on the mat, Augusto Sakai being one of them. Now, Valter Walker is actually pretty solid at getting takedowns, right? He beat Junior Tafa via a heel hook, verbal submission. Now, he rolled for a leg or a heel hook, which was very weird at the time, and I bet on him to win this fight because obviously Junior Tafa and the Tafa bros don't have any grappling whatsoever. And Valter Walker's a guy who's, going to come out there and wrestle, right? And his loss versus Lucas Brzeski, which is just saying that now is crazy. I mean, losing to Lucas Brzeski has to be very, very bad. It is very, very bad to lose to that guy. And I thought he actually beat Brzeski, but ended up not getting the decision because he kind of smudged him to the mat and didn't do anything with the takedowns. He had some urgency in the Tafa fight and ended up getting the win. And I do think that Valter Walker is going to be able to get this fight to the mat. And when he does, he's going to be on top and he's going to dominate this fight. I do think that he'll win this fight via 30-27 decision. Pretty easy fight for him. And I just think when Dontel Mays is put on his back, he can't get up. Next up is Vince Morales taking on Elijah Smith. Now, Vince Morales comes back to the UFC, got dominated by Taylor Lapulus. Dominated. But that's what I expected because Vince Morales struggles with guys who move around the octagon and have good footwork and are fast. And he's not a bad fighter. Obviously, the guy's gone on a crazy win streak outside the UFC with the submissions. Obviously, great. He's pretty good with submissions. I mean, he didn't get a lot in the UFC, but overall, I want to say that Vince Morales is a striker. He's big power, and he wants you to stand in front of him and trade, pretty much. And he's got good power. He's pretty durable as well. I don't even think he's ever been finished in the UFC or gotten KO'd in the UFC, I want to say. And he is durable. He's taken on Elijah Smith, who, as you can see, very young, 22 years old, right? Elijah Smith, I like Elijah Smith a lot. His win over Aaron Tao, who's a Maori guy, or like the Kaikar France, Maori is what they say, or whatever it is. He has like a tattoo on his face, a crazy dude, and I'm not going to lie to y'all, like Aaron Tao's not good, but we got to learn a lot about Elijah Smith in that fight. Elijah Smith can wrestle, he can strike, he's a good athlete, he's very fast, but in that fight, he was putting it on Aaron Tao, winning that fight pretty easily, I want to say, up until the third round where he did gas out a little bit. Made me a little bit nervous, and it makes me nervous in this fight. But I think Elijah Smith, he's obviously 12 years younger. And it shows. He's fast. He's very fast. He's quick. He's only going to get better. I think this kind of is a bit of a tough matchup for him. But I do think that overall Elijah Smith is going to get this one done via decision with the striking, maybe mix in some wrestling. But I think that Elijah Smith gets this one done. Next up, Julia Alvia taking on Jacqueline Cavalcanti. Now, Cavalcanti has been quite annoying because she's been taking up a lot of spots. She just keeps fighting. She's not bad. She's a pretty good striker. Damn, she's got 2 split decision wins. Anyways, Jacqueline Cavalcanti is going to be my pick here. I don't know anything about Julia Alva. Guys, bantamweight WMMA, you might as well just ask like a stranger on the street. I don't know anything about it. Once again, not interested in this fight. I am going to go with Cavalcanti. I like her. I like her activity, and she's a solid striker. So I'll pick her to get this one done. The next fight up, Rodolfo Viera taking on Andre Petroski. This one's interesting because Rodolfo Viera and Petroski want to get this fight to the mat. Petroski's probably the better wrestler, but Rodolfo Viera's got that really, really high level jiu-jitsu. Viera's not bad on the feet. Petroski's not great on the feet either. This is an interesting fight that I don't really know who I'm going to pick even for this. I don't even know. Oh, man, I just don't know because both these guys want to be on the mat. Petroski wants to be on top. Viera don't mind being on the bottom, right? Obviously, he wants to be on top, but he won't mind being on the bottom. Petroski can get takedowns, and he's a pretty good wrestler. Striking, not a good striker. He's not a good striker. He actually joined the UFC and got a lot of wins, right? And then he lost to Michel Pereira, got TKO'd in like a minute. And then he ran into Jacob Malkoon's hip and got knocked out by Jacob Malkoon's hip. So it's a bit of an interesting fight. But overall, man, I don't know, bro. I'm going to go with Petroski. I think the control time is going to do him well in this fight, maybe. I think he's a little bit better on the feet. I don't know, man. It's a weird fight. I'm going to go with Petroski for my early pick. Another fight where I just don't know. It's a little bit interesting. Next up, Edmen Shabazyan taking on Dylan Budka. It's sad to see what Edmen Shabazyan's come to, man. Very sad. He's a win one, lose one. Oh, man, it sucks to see because this guy was looked at, a ranked middleweight and looked at one of the best prospects at middleweight. And he still had success in some of these fights. It's just his gas tank. He runs out of gas, and obviously he got killed in this fight. Getting submitted by Gerald Meerschaert's not great. He hurt Gerald Meerschaert to the body, followed him to the ground, and got submitted. It's got to come to a point where, Budka sucks. He's not good. He's not good, right? This loss, Azamat Bakoyev, I thought he actually beat Bakoyev, and he comes into the UFC and loses to Cesar Almeida, and Budka's weird because he couldn't get takedowns on Cesar Almeida. And Cesar Almeida's been taken down a lot. And Cesar Almeida's been taken down easily by guys like Kopylov, So he couldn't get takedowns on Cesar Almeida and ended up getting TKO'd. And he was getting dominated on the mat by Andre Petroski. So what does he exactly do? Because he can't get takedowns and he gets dominated on the mat. And he's not a good striker. So overall, everything's leaning towards Edmen Shabazyan to win. Now, I've lost a lot of money on Edmen Shabazyan, so I don't want to bet on him again, but this is a spot where I just can't see him losing. I just can't, because I don't think Budka has a good gas tank, and Shabazyan doesn't have a good gas tank, but Shabazyan's actually got good takedown defense when it's early on into the fight, and he's got great power, right? He hits like a truck, and that's something about Edmen. He's got insane amount of finishes. He's got a ton of knockouts on his resume, first round knockouts specifically, and I just think he'll get this one done via first round KO over Dylan Budka, who I don't think is UFC level. And he's still young, Budka is, but so is Shabazyan, but he won't be able to take Shabazyan down, especially early on, like I said. And on the feet, Shabazyan's better, and he hits harder, and he will get the KO here, I want to say, pretty easily. So I am going to go with Edmen Shabazyan to win this one by KO first round. Next up, Jose Delgado, Connor Matthews. Now, Jose Delgado's making his debut. And I've already talked about this previously on my live streams. Jose Delgado reminds me of Julian Erosa so much, it's scary. First off, they're both featherweights. Second of all, they're both tall for the division. And they fight alike. Jose Delgado comes forward, strikes a lot, very aggressive. He's good on the feet. He's dangerous on the feet. And he's dangerous on the mat with submissions. He's very similar to Julian Erosa, aside from the fact that he might have more durability than Erosa, which is Erosa's fault, or, his biggest weakness, I guess, is Erosa's, chin and his durability. He's taken on Connor Matthews, who I actually don't mind Connor Matthews. I think he's got a pretty good skill set. He is a little bit older, and he's not a bad fighter. I think he's a southpaw. He's got pretty good striking. He's fast for, a guy his age. I just think that Delgado's a lot better. Delgado's good, man. I like what I've seen from him a lot. He trains at MMA Lab. He's a solid fighter. He's a solid fighter that I'm very much looking forward to seeing. And he's a guy who can, if Connor Matthews wants to take it to the mat, he's going to be better there. Delgado, I believe, with the submission game. And on the feet, I do believe that Delgado is more dangerous and he's better. One thing about Connor Matthews, he was landing a lot on Dylan Budka, who has had some durability issues and ended up not being able to really hurt Dylan Budka and get him off of him, and ended up getting KO'd in that fight, where I thought Connor Matthews was doing good work. And I actually picked him to win and beat Dylan Budka, but he ended up not winning and getting knocked out. Overall, give me Delgado, man. I like what I've seen out of this dude. He's a new era of MMA, UFC fighters. And balanced, very balanced, can do it all. He's long, rangy, good striker, dangerous on the feet. I like him to get this one done. I'm gonna say a club and sub, knocks Connor Matthews down, gets a rear naked choke, something like that. I'm gonna go Jose Delgado, very dynamic fighter. I'm very excited to see his debut. Next up is gonna be Ismael Bonfim taking on Nazim Sadykhov. A solid fight here. We haven't seen Nazim since that draw versus Vyacheslav Borishev, which is a long time. And he's coming back. He's taking on Ismael Bonfim, who looked really good. beat the hell out of McKinney, beat his ass, right? Landed a lot of good shots in the first round and ended up getting the KO on him. And Ismael Bonfim, the brother of Gabriel Bonfim, they don't fight exactly alike, right? I think that Bonfim is a guy who is powerful, pound for pound, much more powerful, than a guy like his brother. And he has a good left hook. He's got solid combinations. I actually think that Nazim might be the pick here, honestly. I think that Nazim might be the pick. I wasn't too impressed with this Vince Pichel performance from Bonfim. I know Vince Pichel's a tough dude. I wasn't too impressed with it. I thought he swung and missed a lot. I didn't think he looked as good as I thought he was going to look in that fight. Obviously, lost to Benoit Saint Denis, got destroyed in that one. Destroyed, right? And I think that Sadykhov, we haven't seen him in a while, but I like his skill set. I like him training at Longo. I like his wrestling, his striking. I don't believe he's the better striker. I like his kicking game, though. It's pretty good. And obviously, the first fight, getting a fight versus Vyacheslav Borshev is not fun, right? He's a guy who doesn't have the best takedown defense, but he's a hell of a striker, sharp boxing on the feet. And even in this McKinney fight, was a little bit of a tough fight for him, but he ended up getting the win because McKinney gassed out, of course. I'm going with Sadykhov, man. It might be a little bit of a shocker, but I like him to win, man. I'm going with Sadykhov to win this fight by a decision. The co-main event, Youssef Zalal versus Calvin Kattar. I will be the first one to tell you I'm not huge on Youssef Zalal, but I think this matchup is very, very good for him. One, because Calvin Kattar, I thought he was going to go out there and look good versus Arnold Allen, and he ended up getting his knee fucked up. But then he goes out there and fights Sterling and gets absolutely worked, dominated by Aljamain Sterling. And I don't know if that just speaks to how good of a grappler Aljo is, and I do think that he's a great grappler, of course. And no, I don't think he's I don't think Youssef Zalal is a better grappler than Aljo. But Zalal's got really good footwork. He can move around the outside. He's not stationary. He can just move around and make Calvin Kattar kind of chase him, right? And I think that's going to be important for him. Calvin Kattar just doesn't seem like the old Calvin Kattar, especially this fight, man. I can't even unsee it. It was so bad. I thought he got absolutely dominated. No moments. Sterling completely dominated him on the mat. And that makes me nervous because, no, I don't think Youssef Zalal is that good of a grappler, like that high level as Aljo, but the way that Calvin Kattar was getting taken down and how often it was, I think that Youssef Zalal is going to be able to get a submission. And with that movement that Zalal has, that tricky movement, I think it's going to be hard for Kattar to find him. And then when he overextends, Zalal will shoot a takedown. And that's how I think the fight goes, right? Kattar can't find Zalal. He overextends, Zalal takes him down and does whatever he needs to do. Gets a submission or he ground and pounds, but I think that repeats over and over. I just don't think Kattar's good anymore, man. I think he's finished. Zalal's been on a big win streak, and I don't think it's been versus the best competition aside from Jack Shore. And I thought he was going to lose to Jack Shore. Actually, I picked Zalal, but I thought it was going to be a closer fight. He ended up dominating Jack Shore, right? And he was losing that fight early on, but ended up getting the knee, finding that knee, and then finding the submission. Man. I think, Kattar's finished. I got to go with Youssef Zalal, even though I'm not a huge fan and a huge guy who says Youssef Zalal future champion or future top 5 fighter. I don't think so, but I do think that he gets this one done. I'm going to say via submission, round 2. I'll go Youssef Zalal, round 2 submission. Next up is the main event, which I have a problem with. And it's on the Jared Cannonier side. Now, if this was Jared Cannonier that was a little bit younger and before this Imavov and before this Borhalya fight, I would pick him easily. Not easily, but I'd pick him. Now you're looking at a Jared Cannonier who has suffered a lot of damage these past 2 fights, and even this Marvin Vettori fight ended up getting rocked by Marvin Vettori. I don't know if Jared Cannonier's durability is there. It's not there. Actually, it's not there. And on the other side, Gregory Rodrigues doesn't have great durability at all. But I do think that Jared's durability is worse. He's 40 years old. You got to ask yourself this question. If you're Jared Cannonier, how much do I want it, right? What are you getting in the octagon for, right? Because at this point, man, it seems like it's just a paycheck. That's what I think that Jared Cannonier's, getting in the octagon for, a paycheck, right? And most people do, but you got to have aspirations, right? You want to, be the best. And I think that RoboCop actually has that. Now, RoboCop's about to turn 33. He doesn't really look 33. He actually looks a little bit older than Cannonier. But when you look at the skill sets, together, or side from side, Cannonier's the better striker, I will say. I'm confident in saying that. RoboCop has power. He's big, and he hits hard. He hits very, very hard, right? He's coming off a win versus Christian Leroy Duncan, took the fight on short notice, ended up getting a dominant win. Dominated Christian Leroy Duncan, where he was an underdog, where I played him. Very confident he'd win that fight, and I was just afraid to get chinned. And that's how it's always been with RoboCop and me. I'm afraid he's going to get chinned because I don't know about the durability, man. But the guy on the ground, world class, right? He has tons of accolades in jiu-jitsu, and he is a good grappler. He's a strong guy. He can get you there. The problems arise when you realize that this is a 5-round fight. Cannonier has a lot of 5-round experience, right? And he's going to have the cardio advantage, the 5-round experience in general. But I just think that Rodrigues is going to get him out of there. I think that he can knock him out. I think he can submit him. And I don't know, obviously, how the cardio is going to look in 5 rounds for Rodrigues, but it's up to this point, it hasn't been a huge problem. And I just don't know if Jared Cannonier has anything left. And I know that Rodrigues is going to be motivated. He wants to become a champion. And that's what you have to, be. You can't just fight to fight. Overall, I got to go with Gregory Rodrigues to win this fight. I think he'll get a submission in the 3rd round or a KO. I think Cannonier's a little bit finished. Now, if the fight goes later on, I think Cannonier may be able to get a finish. And obviously, Cannonier is live for a finish at all times, right? Because Rodrigues' durability and because Jared has power. But overall, man, I gotta go with Gregory Rodrigues. I think that he's motivated. I like his skill set, big power, big dude, strong guy, good on the ground. His boxing looks pretty solid still. Able to control CLD like that, where CLD has been controlled before. But overall, man, I gotta go with Gregory Rodrigues. I like the frame on him. I'm gonna go with Gregory Rodrigues to get this one done. I'm gonna go via 3rd round KO for RoboCop. And I think Jared's finished, man. That's going to wrap it up for me. I hope y'all boys enjoyed, and I'll catch you in the next one.